So this student was exhibiting behaviors, just acting out. So what would happen is the teacher would ask her a question and she might not want to answer the question or tell her like she wanted to work on something else or do something else, and before you knew it, it like escalated into an argument. So then of course that set off several other students in the classroom as well. So, and a lot of times what the student would do was she would just leave the classroom or go into the cubby or go right under her desk. So those are some of the things that we saw. So another time too, once she would leave the room, we weren't always sure where she was in the school. Sometimes we would find her in the bathroom, in a stall. Other times it might be in the vestibule of the school. Another time it might be in the reset room. So that was problematic because we were concerned about her safety, and we have had other students actually leave the building. She never left the building, but you just never know.
Now, what age group and what developmental level were they on?
So she was in 3rd grade, and she actually was pretty, probably the highest in her class academic-wise. She did really well with reading and was like at the top. She was probably at 3rd grade level or even higher at a 4th grade level. And, she loved to read and write. She was good at math and science as well, so, and was a leader.
Now, was she the oldest of the 4 siblings or right in the middle somewhere?
She was the oldest sibling.
Okay, so everybody was younger than her.
Right.
And what are the ages of the kiddos who are younger?
She had a kindergartner brother, and then I think maybe 2 or 3 little ones.
Littles.
Yeah, they came to the assessment. I believe there was a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an infant, in addition to the kindergartner and our 8-year-old.
Right, so there's a pretty big age gap.
Yeah.
Also, she was the oldest and had a pretty big age gap with her younger siblings.
Right. And I know Mom did not feel comfortable signing a general education social work permission slip. So she did not want services through the schools for general education. But that's where we interfaced with Gabby, and we were able to bring Gabby alongside and work with Mom. And then 2 of the children were receiving aftercare services through Wayne Metro. And there was a social worker there who was macro level who kind of embraced the family as well. So they were getting support through, several different entities, which was nice, kind of like a wraparound, an informal wraparound services.
And something that we kind of tend to do is like sometimes if a parent doesn't feel very trusting of the school for whatever reasons that may be, sometimes we find it helpful to have an outside person.
Right.
So we do have a close relationship with the school, but sometimes having someone that's not necessarily like the school social worker or the teacher, parents sometimes feel more comfortable being able to share more. So the school's usually really good at recognizing that, and they want to make sure that the kids do still get services. So we kind of work as a team to identify who would be better working with on Amy's caseload versus who might be better working at a behavioral health level.
And I think one of the things that can be helpful with that is from our perspective, not seeing that parent as being resistant, but being curious and sort of understanding why they might be distrustful of the school or of social work or of systems.
Right.
And so I don't know if any of you want to speak more to that and why that might be for some of our families, because that's often the case.
Yeah, I think what comes to mind for me, Becca, is that Mom was real fearful of a CPS referral.
Yeah.
They see the social worker as adversarial, and it's automatically a CPS referral. So we're trying to change those dynamics and really work on, I'm almost like a librarian or a media center specialist, like a resource person. So to try and change that paradigm or really move them along that paradigm shift that we're here to assist as opposed to regulate.
Yeah, right.
But also we find ourselves witnessing a power struggle between the school and the parent.
Yes.
Generally, the school would blame the parent, or the parent would blame the school. So you get that power struggle, and sometimes that's a stalemate as far as passing back and forth information.
And Anthony, you make a great point, because with this parent specifically, there was a lot of a view of this mom, like from a lot of people at the school, not everyone, but a lot of people, there was a view of this mom as she was parentifying her oldest daughter. She was expecting too much of this daughter, and there was a lot of blame being put on mom for the kids' behaviors or why that they were behaving the way they were at school. So that could have also added to the distrust if she's noticing
Right.
that's how people are viewing her.
Yeah.
Right.
And even if it wasn't verbally stated to her walking into school, she can get that sense by the way that people are interacting with her, how they speak to her, how they, the effort that they're putting in and engaging with her. Not saying that the school didn't try to go above and beyond, and I'm sure, knowing Lincoln Park as we do, it's what they do, but we all as workers can get to a point where we start to feel frustrated, and that can start impacting that relationship.
We started doing multiple porch visits, but she wasn't even comfortable with the porch visit. That's why we had to bring her to a student study team and get Gabby involved, because we needed to tap out and tap in Gabby to be able to work constructively with this family. And I think that's really helpful for any professional to realize, like, hey, look, we're not able to get what we need or to work effectively, so who else as part of the team can do that?
Right.
Yeah. And we were able to bring mom in. So Gabby and I met with mom and kiddos, and we're able to hear mom's story. And so by asking questions and being empathic with mom, and being curious about mom the same way that we would with kids when we're doing trauma-informed care, we were able to learn a lot about mom's perspective and where mom was coming from. And mom had really valid reasons for parenting the way that she was. So I'll let Gabby share more about that.
So mom came from a family where her own mother died when she was very young. So she had to really quickly become an adult and take care of everything when she felt wasn't prepared for this. So she didn't know how to do the things she needed to do to take care of herself. So she was really concerned that her daughter wouldn't be able to take care of herself if something were to happen to her. So she was really focused on, how can I make sure that my daughter is self-sufficient and does not have to depend on anyone else for her well-being. Because that was one of her biggest concerns. I don't want my daughter ever to have to be in situations where I have to depend on someone who might not treat me well because I have no other options. So she really wanted her daughter to be able to be independent enough to be okay if she wasn't around as her mom.
So it sounds like mom was operating from a trauma survivor standpoint.
Definitely.
And with a lot of the mamas and the parents that we work with, that's very much what we see, is they have their own trauma that they are dealing with from their own childhood experiences, just from life, their own domestic violence, abuse, all of those different pieces. And then they bring it into that parenting role, because that's parenting, right? That's what happens in that position. And for some of these mamas and some of these parents, they have that, like, I'm doing better than my parents did.
Right.
So I should be not like applauded, but like, I'm doing a lot better than how I was treated. And these are the reasons why I'm doing these things. And so if we can really look at these parents from that lens of their own inner child and their own inner, trauma history, that can really help understand the dynamics of.
But we also see that students do what they know, and we see that with the parents too. In this situation, maybe this type of upbringing that this parent had was all she knew, and she carried that right into parenting. And I always say, parenting doesn't come with this 100% flawless handbook.
Yeah.
So everything can be trial and error. So her trial brought about this type of behavior, and she took that right into the relationship.
And it's interesting, she viewed this as a strength. I'm gifting my daughter this ability to function in this world. And being able to, and it sounds like mom was at some point was able to be like, okay, I might have gone too far. Because as parents, we always kind of go too far a little bit. And how do you even that out? But really, she viewed this as a strength, and so that can the others in the room view it as a strength.
But even to look at it like that, to view it as a strength, meant that she was probably looking at her trauma from a weakness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. She was definitely operating out of a lot of fear, and fear of loss for her kids.